Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back. Well, talk about tension and division. We were just talking about anti-Semitism. You have real racial tension off a Supreme Court decision this week pertaining to Louisiana, state of Louisiana, and redistricting in Louisiana, but it sets a precedent that is going to affect this entire country. And it really takes, in my opinion, the Voting Rights Act, the intent of the Voting Rights Act, which was passed in 1965, the 15th Amendment, and flips it on its head. The Voting Rights Act was all about empowering the vote of the minority community, black community. It was about saying that right cannot be abridged. And what this decision says is it's a retrenchment of federal responsibility, which started earlier in truth. 2013, the Supreme Court did away with pre-clearance by the federal government of the redistricting maps. But now it takes it another step and it says, unless you can prove the map was done with discriminatory intent, then there is no violation of federal law. Try to prove discriminatory intent. Very, very high standard, rather than effect. It could have a devastating effect all across the country. And to talk about it is a gentleman who knows this issue intimately. He is the former mayor of New Orleans. You have to let him say it because he says it, they say it totally differently in New Orleans than we say it here in New York. But he was mayor of New Orleans, did a fantastic job. I worked with him when he was there as HUD secretary. He was a superstar. He's still a superstar as president of the Urban League. Mayor Marc Morial. From where?
New Orleans or New Orleans.
New Orleans.
You got two choices. You can say New Orleans or you can say New Orleans. But, Governor, I'm so glad to be on with you. And I think your characterization and setup of the Callais decision was absolutely perfect. But thank you for having me today to talk about a devastating, horrible, terrible decision by this highly politicized Supreme Court.
It is. Well, that's just what it is. We talk about the consequences of national elections. Well, you elect a president. Yeah, you elect a president who elects the Supreme Court. And this Supreme Court has been one of the most effective at changing policy towards a ultra-conservative point of view. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965, this was a seminal moment in this country's history. It was about inclusion. It was about enfranchisement, empowerment, the black community, post-Reconstruction, 14th, 15th Amendment, voting rights because you are a citizen. Basic voting rights because you are a citizen, and the federal government will make sure you have that right, and it's not abridged. No state can abridge it. And this flips it on its head.
Flips it on its head completely. And effectively what it does is it sets off partisan warfare in all 50 states, because what it says is if you're pursuing a partisan objective, then that is an exception effectively to the idea that you would do it for racial means. And so what they do is they set up, if I am simply trying to enhance the number of Republican seats or Democratic seats, then the Voting Rights Act is almost irrelevant. Sam Alito, who wrote this decision, is a dangerous justice. He wrote the decision that overturned Roe v. Wade as well. And what this Supreme Court is doing is not following precedent, reinterpreting the Constitution. And this decision is intellectually dishonest. It engages in all of these gymnastics of logic that somehow today society has changed, and in effect, the Voting Rights Act is no longer needed. Society has changed, and racism and racial disparities are a thing of the past. I am so terribly disappointed, upset, and I should say it straight up, pissed off, Governor, about this decision because it erases the work that people did for over 100 years, from the time of the 15th Amendment to the passage of the Voting Rights Act. And from that point forward, the idea of creating full citizenship for African Americans and other historically left out communities is what was considered to be a national objective, not a Democratic objective, not a Republican objective, not a white objective, not a black objective, but a national objective to make democracy complete and full. This is happening in the 250th year of the founding of this country. And we are reversing the progress that made the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence whole and more complete. And it's an intellectually dishonest decision. And what it's going to do at every state, you're now going to have blue states and red states. If Democrats have power, they're going to write a map so that all the districts are Democratic districts. If the Republicans have power, they're going to do the same thing. This country is headed for a schism, a political schism. That is not what apportionment and reapportionment are all about. It was always about fair maps that gave people fair representation. It was about ameliorating the long history of maps in my home state. Look, it bears saying that in my own home state, my late father, when he was elected to the legislature of Louisiana in 1967, he was the first black person elected to the legislature since the 1800s, when he won his seat in 1967. And he was the only black legislator for literally 3 to 4 years until the preclearance provision of the Voting Rights Act blocked Louisiana from continuing to write districts, which for the most part completely cut out African American voters, who made up 1/3 of the population. Now, this case, the Callais case, when I was in the state legislature in the early 1990s, we wrote a plan that created a second African American district. That plan was challenged in court then, and it was invalidated. Finally, 20 some years later, 25, roughly 20 plus years later, we have an opportunity and create a second seat so that African Americans would be 2 of 6. I think we have 6 in Louisiana, and everyone could be fairly treated. The remaining 4 were predominantly white and also predominantly Republican leaning in terms of their voting behavior. This is a bad decision for the country. It's going to set off partisan warfare like we've never seen before. It really guts not only the Voting Rights Act, but it guts American democracy. So anyone that cares about American democracy, what it means, what its essence is, should be greatly disturbed by, once again, this Supreme Court immunizing the president, making up laws so that the president would be immune from criminal prosecution, overturning Roe v. Wade, doing a whole range of things. This court is a political court. This court is operating like political hacks who are taking messages from politicians, not fulfilling their responsibility to interpret and apply the law in a fair and impartial way.
I agree with you 100%, Mark, and you said it very well. Also, your point, which I think people have to get, this is not just about Louisiana. It's not just about the black community. What you're forcing states to do, and we see it happening already, they will do redistricting in a way that is hyper-partisan.
Yes.
There will be no swing districts.
No.
Right? There'll be hard Democratic districts, hard Republican districts. You will, your word was schism, I believe. There'll be a schism that is formed where you polarize the country, literally.
Polarize the nation. We end up in two camps.
Yes.
And Governor, that is not consistent with what American democracy is all about. I mean, this is such a bad decision. And I think that we're going to have to work and find ways to build around it, to create a different pathway, because I just think that what we're going to see is something we are not going to like.
Yeah. Amen to that. Mayor Morial from,
thank you, Governor,
from New Orleans, president of the Urban League, which is a fantastic organization doing great work all across the nation. We're blessed to have the Urban League. We're blessed to have you at the head of it.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing. I want to thank you because we have moved into our new headquarters building. And, Governor, without your support, we would have never done it. That building on 125th Street, the new Urban League Empowerment Center, is there because your administration and you backed us from the beginning. And I want to thank you.
And I'm proud of it. Congratulations. Thank you. I'll see you up there. We'll take a break. Don't go away.
Let Century Management Solutions get you to your next medical appointment. They specialize in non-emergency medical transportation, connecting patients to care, safety, reliability, and on time. Their advanced technology platform seamlessly coordinates patients, healthcare providers, insurers, and transportation partners all in one powerful network. With over 200 trusted transportation providers, they deliver scalable solutions backed by real-time tracking and complete transparency. Go to SENTRYMS.com.